Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of About Abroad, where it's my job to introduce you to people who have built amazing lives for themselves in various foreign corners of the globe. We're talking with expats and thought leaders about moving abroad, remote work, visas, and all the fun and practical knowledge that you need to know to follow in their footsteps. If you've ever dreamed of making a life for yourself overseas, maybe working remotely or embracing long-term travel, retiring or studying abroad, or even just taking a peek inside life beyond your borders, you've landed in the right place. This episode is brought to you by my friends over at the Fez Agency. Did you all know that Portugal is currently ranked the #1 country in the world for remote workers? Yeah, that's right, #1 in the entire world. With the beautiful weather mixed with the history, friendly people, incredible coastline, and awesome cuisine, it is really easy to understand why. And in fact, some of our most popular episodes here on About Abroad are about Portugal. So I already know that you all love it, and I'm not going to waste your time trying to convince you to go visit. But what I will try to convince you of is planning your next company retreat there. And when you do, to use the Fez Agency. Fez Agency is local, right there from Porto, with people on the ground to help you plan your company retreat. They can map out every single detail of your offsite anywhere in the country of Portugal. So that way you can arrive, you can unwind and recharge with your teammates without the stress. You all know you love it there. I know you'll love it there. So let's get your team there. And the next time you're planning a company offsite, consider Portugal and then contact my friends over at the Fez Agency to make it happen. You can visit them via the link in the show notes. Today, my new friend Mayur joins us here on About Abroad to share a little bit about his home country of India, and in particular Goa, where he's built a co-living and community center called NomadGao, which we spent some time talking about, and also dive into his personal story traveling around different parts of Southeast Asia and the world after spending almost all of his life in a small village in India, and how that opened up his eyes to the world of travel and international lifestyle and wanting to bring digital nomadism back to India. So now he has become one of the leading digital nomads and community builders in India, and specifically there in Goa, and has done a phenomenal job advocating for remote work, digital nomadism, life on the road, and all that comes with that for other people there in India and around the world. Is really interesting to talk with Mayur. Had a great time with this one. We did encounter some technical difficulties along the way, so the audio has been chopped up a little bit, and you may hear a little bit of that along the way, but nonetheless, great stuff from Mayur, and I wanted to share with you anyway. So hope you will help me in welcoming Mayur to About Abroad. So yeah, I mean, I haven't even actually been to India before, as much as I love to travel and as high on my bucket list as India has been. This entire massive piece of land in the world has somehow escaped me. And so when we finally connected to make this work, I was like, I can't wait to just dive into the country as a whole, the culture, learn more about your project. I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, thanks, Chase, for having me here first. And if I have to talk about India, I think we need few more episodes because it's such a large and diverse country. But I'll try to, throw some light on my life in India, or life in India for foreigners, and my life abroad as a digital nomad during this episode. Yeah. Pretty excited.
Well, I don't think you'll have any trouble on that latter part. You know, you've seen quite a bit of the world, and your story is really cool. Like I don't know all the details, which is why this will be a lot of fun today. I mean, I've been following your work for a while, and we've been kind of connected online, and I've seen what you're doing there at NomadGao, and so if I understand it correctly, you were sort of a bit of a digital nomad at first, right? Or maybe you still are, but like, you kind of dipped your toe in the digital nomad waters, traveling around different parts of the world, and then kind of found out that maybe you should try to bring digital nomadism into India back some years ago. Is that, am I more or less correct there?
Yeah, pretty much. So to make the short story long, I come from a small town in India. Till about the age of 22, I had not really stepped out of my hometown. I studied in my hometown, but I always wanted to travel. I come from a joint family, so we had about 15-20 people in the house. So we had our own community in the house. And we were on limited means, so I could not go on a lot of school trips and stuff. But I always used to, go to an old book shop and used to take old travel magazines just to feel the world, because I knew that I probably could not travel to those places back then, but I was just building my bucket list for the future. I took my first flight in my entire life when I was like 26 or 27. So that's when my real travel journey started. My corporate job offered me a lot of travel opportunities, but they were mostly limited to day meetings and stuff. And back in 2014, when I got a remote job, I felt that okay, this is my pivotal moment. This is where everything changes in my life. I can use the flexibility that I have to be anywhere, to work from anywhere, to really go back to the same places that I saw in the travel magazines when I was a kid. And that's how I became digital nomad back in 2014. Started traveling within India because India itself is so huge that I've barely covered a quarter of India even after traveling for such a long time. So diverse. And I think that's when I started gaining confidence. I lived in a village in the Himalayas for about a year. That's when I felt like, okay, why are people working from big cities? Why do they have to travel to office? Why do they have to breathe polluted air? Why do they have to buy expensive things? Life could be simpler and easier and much better living in smaller places. Then I traveled around Southeast Asia for a couple of years. Met my wife in Vietnam. She's Vietnamese. We decided to come to India because the education for kids and everything is a little better here because there is a large English speaking population, more what I should say opportunities in terms of learning and earning.
And so, like, how distinct are these dialects? Because, like sometimes a dialect might be just a different accent. And then in other places, the dialect can actually be so strong that you go from one dialect to the next and people can't even understand the difference hardly. I mean, it almost becomes a separate language. Is like, where does it fall on the spectrum in India generally?
Yeah. So, Chess, it depends on where you are in India. So just last week, I was in the Indian Himalayas in a state of Himachal Pradesh. Beautiful state, beautiful mountains. Dalai Lama stays in the same state, place called Dharamshala. So there I noticed that every maybe about 30-40 kilometers, people have, a dialect which is at least 25-30% different from the other place. I think the reason is because in the mountains, what happens is 30 kilometers in the mountains is probably 100 kilometers in plain. So the dialects change very quickly in the mountains. But in the plains, you'll see the same language being spoken for 100, 200 kilometers, sometimes in a state. For example, in the state of Rajasthan, they speak Marwadi in the south, and so there are a couple of languages that are spoken in that state which are distinctly different from Hindi, but people who understand Hindi can maybe understand half of the stuff being spoken in that language. So they are pretty different in some of the areas. Some of the places they're not so different.
Gotcha. Okay. Good to know. And then, but like for somebody traveling to India for the first time, like English is such a commonly adopted language there. It feels like you could arrive without having to fully understand, not even fully, but just like basically understand some of the language. You could get by with English, correct?
Yeah, you could get by in English, especially places which has seen tourists coming in. English works great. So India is, I think, the second largest English-speaking country in the world after US in terms of people who can speak English.
Which is a kind of a mind-boggling stat, right? Like considering it's not even the first language of the country, it's incredible to think that it's the second largest English-speaking country in the world. That's mind-blowing.
Yeah. So you can definitely get by. So my wife doesn't speak Hindi. She's learning, but being a Vietnamese, it's a sea change for her. But she's been very comfortable in India without speaking English or without speaking Hindi or the local language.
Good to know. Okay. All right, great. Yeah, sorry, I interrupted. I derailed us with the language thing, but it's just so fascinating to think about. We have all these like imaginary borders drawn between these different countries, and in some countries, like the one that I'm from, everybody within those borders speaks one language. There's hardly even like super strong accent differences. I mean, we cross from Florida to the state of Washington, and you're you can hear an accent difference, but I mean the language is pretty much the same. So it's just amazing. I think for some people who may have never left their home country, I don't know, maybe like you before you left, like to envision just crossing through relatively small spaces and hearing totally different languages, totally different dialects, different ways of eating, different cultures. I don't know, this whole concept just is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, it's fascinating to me. The more you travel, the more you know that you don't know more about the world.
Yeah, exactly. And that travel bug continues to itch even stronger, I think, because like for you, you were reading these like travel magazines at a young age, and then like you start to travel, you think you're gonna quench that thirst. You're like, okay, yeah, now I've seen a little bit of India. That'll make me happy. And then you're like, oh wait, no, there's all these other countries I need to go see. And then you go visit those countries, and then you're like, oh wait, there's a bigger world out there I need to go see. And it's just kind of perpetual, I think.
Yeah. So as I said before, I've not even covered more than quarter of India. There is so much more to for me to explore within India that I don't think enough to one lifetime is enough. And if I talk about the world, I think I just want to be born again. Luckily, in Hinduism we have rebirths, so reincarnations. So hopefully I'll have few more of those. I can travel.
Yeah, fortunate for you, you've got reincarnation on your side, so there's plenty of time. I love it. I know we kind of got off track with your personal story there, and I think it would be cool to kind of tie it back in to how you ended up coming back to India, because I think that's a very interesting part of your story. Like you went away, you had this desire to go away, but then you kind of had this pull back to India to kind of introduce digital nomadism and such to the world in India. And then you've built this incredible community there in Goa and called NomadGao. NomadGao. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong. But like, I think this whole series of events is really fascinating. I'm kind of interested to hear more about it, and I would love to kind of share with the audience what NomadGao is and what it means to you to have this community there.
Yeah. So back in 2017, I met my wife Joy in Vietnam when I was traveling, when I was towards the far end of my exploration in Vietnam. And I had this big fat Europe trip planned. Big fat in the sense as big as my Indian passport could allow me to be in Europe. But then I met Joy and I felt like, okay, wait a second. Life is not about just exploring new places. Life could be more about also hosting people from different places. And we agreed on that. Joy is a single mother, was rather. So then we felt that India would be a better place for kids to have their education, and just as we discussed, there is large English speaking population. Half the schools, most of the private schools are in English media, run in English medium. So it's just easier for kids to learn here, make new friends. But at the same time, the bigger thought was that, okay, how could I make India popular among digital nomads? And unless I base myself in India, unless I sacrifice my own travel dreams, travel goals, it wouldn't have been possible. So I said, okay, let me instead of me visiting places, let me build a community so that people visit me. That was the whole idea, because as you recall, I am always in the quest of finding communities of like-minded people. But this was the first time when I felt like, okay, if I come back to India, I may not find the community. I'll have to build one by myself. That's how NomadGao was born.
And so when you say hosting, like, for somebody that hasn't seen what NomadGao is, I'm looking at your website here. So I know, I know a little bit about what you guys are doing there. explain like what it is exactly, like what NomadGao is, or if you want to start at the origins of it, maybe and how it's evolved, that's fine too. Because I think what I understand it to be is like it's like this co-living community space in this beautiful natural setting where people can come and live and work and stay and work remotely from there for as long as they want. But there's also like a big kind of like international community around it. And if I understand it right, there's multiple locations. So yeah, if you could like paint the picture for us, because I feel like I know a little bit, but maybe a lot of people listening don't even have any clue what they're envisioning here.
Right. I'd be happy to do that. So coming to the origins of it, being from a small town and having experienced remote work, I felt that not needed for all the people to be in big cities, breathe polluted air, travel to office in traffic, and be unhappy about their lives in these cities. I felt that remote work could really change everything and work from anywhere, work from villages. So when I decided to start a community, it was very easy for me to name it because nomad comes from digital nomads, and Gao in a lot of Indian languages means village. So the idea was to create communities in villages where people can go to and work from there, live there, connect with like-minded people there, stay happy, healthy, productive in such places. So if you look at our spaces, we have three locations in Goa, which is a beautiful coastal state which was a Portuguese colony for 400 years. So it's very distinct from rest of the India. You'll see lots of coconut trees, mango trees. The beach is close by. So people who stay with us, they go to the beach in the morning, some take surfing lessons, then they come back, have a healthy breakfast at our place, work during the day at our co-working space, spend the evenings playing board games, card games. Sometimes we do karaoke nights, movie screening. On Sundays, we go to beach to play beach volleyball. So the idea is to help people live a balanced life in our communities. So we provide stay, internet, like a co-working space, healthy food, and lots of experiences which help them connect with nature, connect with themselves, connect with local community.
How many people are there roughly? Like I'm trying to, do you have 10 guests, 100 guests? Is somewhere between? I have no idea.
Yeah. So we try to keep the community size optimal. So 15 to 20 is our sweet spot, because we don't want to have too many people where not everyone knows everyone. But having too few people also is not advisable. It doesn't fit into economics, first thing. And second thing is then there is not enough diversity. So we try to maintain this balance of 15-20 people.
Nice. Yeah, I think that is like a really nice sweet spot, because then you have enough people to converse with, to meet, to keep some activity going, but also you don't get lost in the mix of having too many people, and then therefore not really deeply connecting with anyone there. And do they tend to be a lot of internationals, or do you have a mix of locals, locals meaning like from India, or people mainly coming from other countries?
Yeah. So last 2 years, as I said, we have been full with mostly Indians. But now going forward, as flights are starting, I foresee 60% foreigners, 40% Indian. Culturally, I think still a little way to go for Indians to adopt to remote work fully.
We'll be right back to the show after a quick break for a note from our sponsor. This season is brought to you by my good friends over at Insured Nomads. They're the absolute best in the business when it comes to providing health, travel, and medical insurance for nomads, expats, and really just all forms of world travelers. I know insurance is often something that's overlooked when we're fantasizing about traveling the world, but it's absolutely necessity that we address this, because often the policy you have in your home country isn't going to cover you while you're abroad. And it's also a requirement, as a lot of people may not realize, to actually buy private travel or expat insurance, as it's called sometimes, to obtain a visa or even enter certain countries. So fortunately, there are companies like Insured Nomads to help us with this. Not only do they have excellent coverage and great prices, but they're also providing a first-class experience with additional perks and best-in-class technology via their app. It's an amazing experience. I can't recommend it enough. Now, this is a company that was built by world travelers for world travelers. So they know what it's like to find yourself in a difficult medical situation abroad, and they want to keep you from having that same bad experience. So the next time you're planning a trip abroad, whether it's for a week or a lifetime, check out Insured Nomads via the link in the show notes. Hey guys, if you're still around and enjoying this episode, then I think you might actually like our once a month newsletter as well. If you'd like to sign up, just open up the show notes of the episode you're currently listening to, scroll down, and look for aboutabroad.com/newsletter. It takes about 30 seconds to sign up. It's a fantastic way to support the show, and I think you'll be pleased with the information that we provide every month as well. Thanks a lot for listening. Hope you enjoy the rest of the episode.
I would like to talk about the updates on visa. So India has restarted tourist visas. There is no digital nomad visa yet. But for, I think, 170 countries, you get 1 year, 5-year, and 10-year tourist visa to India.
Oh, wow.
Wherein in each visit, you can stay up to 6 months. So it's a great deal. And I think
Wow.
they're granting 500,000 free visas. So those who are listening to this, I think they should hurry up, apply for long visa.
Get your free visa while it lasts. And that's amazing. 1, 5, and 10 years. That's kind of unheard of actually in the visa world. So that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I think Japanese, Americans, and few other countries get 10-year, but pretty much the rest of them get up to 5 years. And I always feel that, why India lags behind in terms of a digital nomad hub is only because of, lack of education about the country, about the policies. And I think India was not really a country which focused on tourism until few years ago. But last few years, a lot of things have changed in terms of visa, in terms of ease of life in India, in terms of support that they are giving to international tourists and foreigners. Even in terms of internet, India has seen massive growth. So right now I'm on my 4G data. Last week when I was in the mountains, I was at a really remote village at 2,500 meters above sea level, and I could get like 70 Mbps megabit mobile data there. Can you believe it?
High up in the Himalayas. That's insane.
Yeah. And even on the broadband front, they're laying cables everywhere. They're really focusing on digitization. So I've spent last whole month not making any cash payment because everyone accepts, even in the remotest village, they accept digital payment. The India that most people know from the news, I think it's outdated. You'll have to come in here and experience it to know what's really going.
Yeah, it's one of the fastest, the most quickly expanding economies, populations, and overall industry in the world. Actually, I think you're right. I think a lot of people don't really realize that. Maybe they know about the big population and some little bullet points here and there, but I mean, there's massive technological expansion and growth happening in India that I think can actually change like the entire world economics. And so I think it's actually pretty fascinating to see and to hear something like that. Like for instance, that you can accept credit cards high up in a little village in the Himalayas. I mean, to put that in perspective, I was just in Lisbon a couple weeks ago and couldn't pay for my taxi with a credit card. Of course, most taxis you could, but it wasn't the taxi driver was not surprised or seemed surprised that I expected to be able to pay by credit card. So just, kind of drawing those two parallels there, that is a pretty amazing thing. And I think kind of symbolizes the advancements that are taking place there.
Yeah. So Chase, credit cards are a bit outdated. So
I should have sent him Bitcoin.
Not yet, because there are a lot of regulatory hurdles here. But mobile payments is a big thing in India. So Indian government has launched this few years ago. They launched this payment interface, and that resulted in massive growth in even smaller shops accepting digital payment mobile. And I think it's just mind blowing because back in 2016 we had a crazy development where one fine day our prime minister said all your notes, the higher value notes, are banned from the moment. And that really pushed a lot of people.
As you said, kind of opening the country up. I do sense as you that India has become more. I mean, it's interested in attracting foreigners in general. I think it's going to be pretty exciting to watch and see how it affects small businesses. I mean, and up to some of the mega corporations, for instance, already established there. I think it could be huge to be in the same country is sort of an incredible thing. And I feel like the country is in general saying, yes, okay, we actually do want people to come here and see what we have to offer.
Exactly. I mean, there is just so much to explore. Get your free visa, Chase.
I'll be first in line. I want to come hang out there in Goa with you. Can you actually do me a favor and sort of describe Goa? Because I feel like it's one of those places that people know about. Like if you're a bit of a traveler and maybe you haven't been to India, you probably still know of Goa or you've heard of it. But like, what is it like there? What's kind of take us on a quick tour of Goa from the foreigner's perspective?
Sure. So Goa is the smallest state in India. It was a Portuguese colony for 400 years until 1961 when it became a part of India, like the Republic of India. It's pretty interesting because even for such a small state, there is so much cultural diversity because there is a large Catholic population, there's also Hindu population, Muslim population, because before Portuguese, it was also ruled by Muslim rulers, and then before that, it was ruled by Hindu rulers. So, in terms of the cultural heritage, there is so much of it. There is large coastline. So, if you're looking for surfing, there is going to be some beach somewhere where you can surf, some beach somewhere where you dive, some beach somewhere where you see turtles. There is something for everyone. In terms of life beyond the beaches, there is so much to do inland because there are a lot of biodiversity zones away from the coast. There are a lot of temples, churches, pretty old, pretty beautiful architecture. If you take a walk around Latin quarters in Goa, you'll see a lot of primary colors, houses painted in primary colors. It's so pleasing for eyes to see diversity in colors, in culture, in cuisine. It's also known for the party scene. So in case I'm done with party, in case those who are listening listening to this want to experience nightlife, Goa is a great place.
Yeah, that is a bit of the stereotype, but also I feel like in somewhat of like a responsible way or something. I don't know. Maybe that's not correct, but I have this impression that it's sort of like spiritual place in a way too. So you have this crowd there that comes to Goa that likes to have a good time and go out, younger crowd maybe, but also there is this like respect for there. Maybe similar in a way to like Bali, or maybe Bali 10, 20 years ago or something. I don't know. Is there am I off base there, you think, or does that sound about right?
Yeah, actually, interestingly, I see a lot of parallels between Bali and Goa in terms of the cultural heritage. I think Goa has a little more diversity than Bali in terms of culture. But apart from that, I think Goa is kind of Bali because there are beaches. You want to explore the inland areas. If you want to do rafting, there are rivers. If you want to go up the hill for hiking, there are hills. So, and in terms of, as you said, there is also a lot of spirituality around it. So some of the places, some of the areas, some of the beaches have yoga schools and just the spiritual calm vibe. So as I said, there is something for everyone.
Yeah, and I mean, if for anybody listening, like if you haven't seen pictures of Goa, like and you're curious, like just Google this real quick and see. I mean, the water's gorgeous, the beaches are beautiful. It's this tropical, lush scenery with mountains in the background and colorful buildings lining the streets. And I mean, it looks like a complete paradise. And I think still somewhat on the massive international scene, like a little bit somewhat undiscovered in a way, compared to a place like Bali or Tulum or something like this. So absolutely worth a consideration there when you're thinking about your next escape to a foreign land. Is there any, I wanted to ask you, like as a local there, is there any other place in India that really calls to you? Like if you were talking, if you and I are having a conversation, I'm saying, yeah, I want to come spend a couple months in India. I'm going to come for my 6 months and spend 3 months there with you in Goa. And then I want to go spend 3 months somewhere else. Is there somewhere that you would recommend? I mean, I think a lot of people are going to go and see some of the main cities and see some of the main tourist attractions perhaps, but where's that other place in India that might call to you as like a semi-permanent place to call home?
Yeah. So in fact, personal reason behind starting NomadGao was that I wanted to have communities in the places that I like. So Goa was definitely first on the list, but I love the mountains. I love Himachal Pradesh. So there is a place named Dharamshala where Dalai Lama stays. There is a lot of spirituality there. There is Vipassana Center. There are a couple of other renowned meditation centers, and then all of this at the backdrop of huge mountains. So that's the place where I want to be. In fact, we are starting the next NomadGao in Dharamshala next month.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Where is that located geographically in the country?
It's in the north, north
okay.
of Delhi.
Cool. Awesome. Okay. putting that on the list as well. Thank you very much. I know we're kind of coming up on time. I feel like this is flown by. We experienced a few little technical difficulties along the way. For those of you still with us, thank you for powering through those with us, and that cut into our time a little bit here today. So I feel like we could, as you said in the very beginning, Mayur, like there's no way we can cover India as a country in 1 hour anyway, but not even Goa. So I think we set the stage for maybe a follow-up conversation another time. And in the meantime, gave some people a little bit of an insight into what life is like there in India, what life is like in Goa, and what you're doing there at NomadGao. So thank you for sharing all of that. I want to ask you one last question that I have to know a little bit more about, because I saw you shared this somewhere. Is it true that you're about to take your family, like homeschool your kids and travel around on a motorbike or something like that? Can you fill in the blanks for me here? Because I feel like this would be an amazing way to end the interview.
Yeah. So we have been preparing ourselves for homeschooling our kids for last couple of years. I think the pandemic gave us a big chance to try it because the schools were not operating. Anyways, the kids were at home, learning from home. And I think we are confident now. So we have decided to homeschool them starting June and travel around India and potentially Southeast Asia in a modified tuk-tuk, not a motorcycle, but a tuk-tuk, because we have 3 kids and can't fit them all on a motorcycle.
Can you fit 5 people in a tuk-tuk just fine? Is that's going to be a comfy ride, or are you going to just rough it for a little while?
I think tuk-tuk is comfortable for 5, considering
Nice.
We'll be driving it ourselves. And why tuk-tuk? Because I think it's just, so it's so open. So my wife gets car sick. So she doesn't prefer traveling by car. But at the same time, we can't travel by bike. So tuk-tuk fits perfectly because it's open and nice and airy. On the environmental side also, I think it leaves less carbon footprint than cars. So we are also looking to get an electric tuk-tuk so that it can be even lesser. And I think it's just nice to travel. I love tuk-tuk.
Yeah, I mean, who doesn't love a good tuk-tuk ride? I think you're more adventurous than most. Most people are like, oh, I'll go on the city tour in the tuk-tuk, and you're going to travel across India. And that reminds me, do you know Tarek from Nomads Giving Back?
Nomads Giving Back. Like, I've heard of him, I follow him. And it's pretty incredible what he's doing.
He's been on the podcast before, and one of his greatest, I think he's visited over 100 countries, and he's seen a lot of the world. And one of his greatest adventures was riding across India on a tuk-tuk. So if you need some, I don't think you need any inspiration. I think you've already got that, but
no, I'll definitely need some. I'll definitely need some.
How long will you guys travel for? Like, is there a time period that you're considering, or is it indefinite?
I think it's gonna be our life for next couple of years at least. Setting up communities, traveling in a tuk-tuk, going to a place, staying there for a couple of months, setting up communities, moving on to what we are planning. But no limits really. I mean, I don't know.
I imagine a lot of people with 3 kids are thinking that sounds impossible, and you guys are just nomads at heart, just saying, yeah, whatever, we're gonna hop in the tuk-tuk and go.
Yeah. So in fact, the name of the project is Nomad Tuk-tuk. So in case you need some inspiration, those who are listening to this, traveling family, I think you can follow us on Instagram.
Yeah, well, on that note, let's leave everybody. We'll put all this in the show notes so people can access it with a quick click. But what are the handles, the websites? Where should people go to follow along and learn more about you? Follow the family journey, follow NomadGao, and then they can find you and come stay and experience Goa with you.
Yeah. So for NomadGao, they can go to the website nomadgao.com, NOMAD, nomad, and GAO. Just be careful because it could look like Goa, Gao, GAO, nomadgao.com.
Which I love that Gao means village. That's such an amazing aspect to the branding. So I love it.
And for Instagram, you can go to nomad.gao, GAO again. For Nomad Tuk-tuk, you can just follow us on Instagram on UKT. That's about it. If you want to connect with me personally, I think LinkedIn is the best medium. Professional and I think I love LinkedIn.
That's where you and I met unofficially until our official meeting today. So agreed, it could be a great place for networking. We'll again link to all of that in the show notes. So if any of this interests you all, you can follow along there. Mayur, thank you so much for stopping by. Thanks for powering through the some of the technical challenges we faced today, but it was awesome to connect with you finally. Really look forward to visiting India. I would absolutely love to come visit NomadGao and experience everything you guys have to offer there. It seems like you've really done an amazing job creating a community that's built on the experiences you had traveling around the world and interacting with people from different cultures. So I love what you're doing. Keep it up, and thank you for spending some time on About Abroad today.
Thanks, Chase. Thanks for having me here. And it was really great talking to you. Looking forward for new podcast called About India.
We got to go all in on India. Yeah, I agree. Thanks a lot. We'll see you soon.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in today from wherever you are in the world. Once again, I'm Chase, and this has been another episode of About Abroad. For those of you wondering how you can best support the show, I have made it super simple for you. Just go over to the show notes of the episode that you just finished listening to and click on one of the two following links. aboutabroad.com/newsletter to get our monthly newsletter, no spam, guaranteed, or ratethispodcast.com/aboutabroad, where you can quickly and easily leave a review for the show. It's not just important to me, it also helps more wanderers just like you find us. Finally, don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform of choice, and we will see you again next week. Thanks again. Hasta luego, amigos.